Girls here. Thanks for coming on today's episode. This week, like every week, I'll be talking about natural living and healthy tips that will get you to rethink how you live and what products or habits you can easily change to better your life. So let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to Urban Wisdom. Well, I love our topic this week because it's a recipe, and not only a recipe, but a family recipe. So this one is how to make fresh pumpkin pie. Now, pumpkin pie says everything we love about the holidays. For instance, it has a sweet smell, a heavenly taste, brings happiness to the soul, and puts a smile on the face. While closing my eyes, I take that first bite of pumpkin pie around the holidays and melt. It's kind of like those commercials you see where little bubbles pop up describing how you feel. Well, in this case, the feeling is utterly delightful, marvelous, grand, and sublime. In short, pumpkin pie is the best. Now, due to the importance of a good recipe, I'm sharing a family pumpkin pie recipe that comes from a long line of excellent cooks. A one of a kind, you might say. It uses fresh pumpkin from your garden, eggs straight from the chicken, and thick cream you get from the cow. Now, as the ingredients are very important to the overall product, try to find organic or homegrown if you do not have or grow them yourself. With that, you guys, let's start making some pie. Now, the ingredients for pumpkin pie, this recipe is for one pie, and you want to bake it at 350 degrees for 1.5 hours. Now, you want 2 cups baked pumpkin. For instructions on how to bake your pumpkins, you guys, you can go to heatherearls.com/ I think I have it under pumpkin seeds because it's the same thing. I'll give you a brief description. You're just going to cut your pumpkin in half, de-seed it, just scoop it out with a spoon. You're going to put it on a baking sheet with a little water on the bottom, and you're going to cook that pumpkin until you stick a fork in it and it's tender. Then you're going to pull your pumpkin out, scoop it away from the skin, and you have your baked pumpkin. Now, some people just like to mash it with a potato masher. Others like to blend it in a blender so it's, just a nice, really fine pumpkin. That is your decision. But overall, you need 2 cups of baked pumpkin, 3 farm fresh eggs, 3/4 cup of cream. You want fresh or heavy whipping cream. You want 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 cup white sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar, 1/4 cup cloves, 1/4 teaspoon ginger, 1 teaspoon vanilla, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now, the ingredients for the crust, this recipe is for a single crust, which is a 9-inch. You guys, you want 1 cup all-purpose or unbleached flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 cup plus 1 tablespoon of shortening, and then 2 to 3 tablespoons cold water. Now, I want to tell you something. So the shortening, I actually use my rendered down pig lard for the shortening portion, which is the same thing except it's just homegrown. So if you guys have your own pigs and you do that anyways, I would use that option. It just makes a really flaky pie crust. So the directions: turn on your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now begin by mixing all of your ingredients in a KitchenAid or whatever method of mixing you prefer. I would suggest mixing after each element or ingredient to ensure there are no clumps. Once you have all the ingredients combined and mixed, set your oven again to 350. You guys, I put that in there twice because sometimes you get straight to the ingredients and you forget to turn on your oven. And then when your pie is ready, your oven is cold. So that's why I put it in there a couple times. Now, next, start making your crust. Mix the flour and salt in a medium bowl. Now, cut in the shortening using a pastry blender or crisscrossing 2 knives until particles are the size of small peas. Now, sprinkle with cold water, 1 tablespoon at a time, tossing with your fork until all the flour is moist and pastry almost leaves the side of the bowl. Add 1 to 2 teaspoons more of water if needed. Now, gather your pastry into a ball and flatten it a little with your hands. Roll the pastry on a lightly floured surface using a floured rolling pin into a circle which is like 2 inches larger than the upside down pie plate, which is a 9 by like 11 and a quarter inches. Now fold the pastry in half or fourths and place it in a pie plate. I usually just fold mine in half, but if you fold it in a quarter, this just prevents it from tearing as you're lifting it off the counter and into the pie plate, okay? Now unfold, pressing firmly against bottom and sides, being careful not to stretch the pastry, which will cause it to shrink when baked. Pinch with fingers to make some edging and trim off any extra. Be sure to keep the flour on your rolling pin so the dough does not stick or tear. Now for 2-crust pie, divide pastries in half and shape into your 2 rounds. If desired, wrap each round in plastic wrap and refrigerate about 30 minutes to firm up the shortening slightly, making the baked pastry flakier and letting the water absorb evenly throughout the dough. However, you will need to let the pastry soften slightly before trying to roll it out. Now, stir your pumpkin pie mixture and pour it into the pie crust. Place pie in the oven and bake for an hour and a half or until a butter knife comes out pretty clean when placed in the center. Now, once that's done, cool on a drying rack and serve or freeze and save for a later date. Be sure to cover the pie or pies with saran wrap before freezing. Now that's all there is to it, other than eating a huge slice with homemade whipped cream. Well, I also want to wish you and your family a memorable Thanksgiving and hope you will enjoy and save this family recipe for years to come, you guys. So happy holiday, friends, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Urban Wisdom and Natural Living. Tune in next week where I'll broadcast live every Monday morning at 8 a.m. If you miss it live, hold those tears and head on over to my blog, which is heatherearles.com. That's Heather, EARLES.com. There you can have 24/7 access or right here on iTunes. If you want to follow me on social media, you'll find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. Have a healthy week.